Welcome to the WealthGenius Podcast, brought to you by the Expand Wealth Real Estate Fund. Expand your wealth by investing in apartment buildings. Go to expandwealthfund.com to book your info session. The WealthGenius Podcast, strategies for multifamily real estate investing, mindset, community, success. The WealthGenius Podcast with your host, the godfather of real estate, Alfonso Cuadra, who has expansive experience in business and massive success as a real estate investor. The WealthGenius Podcast. Let's dive into today's episode.
Hello.
Alfonso, good to see you again.
Oh, I'm so excited. We have so much to talk about.
That's right.
First things first, when did we meet? Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember. We met in
2019.
2019. No, 2018.
18.
Wow.
It
And
seems like forever
you were
ago.
doing a presentation, like a weekend workshop.
Yes.
On real estate.
Yes.
And you were such a convincing and flamboyant and amazing speaker. You had me on the edge of my seat the whole weekend.
Well, I appreciate
That's
that.
how I met you.
Appreciate it. And you're very memorable. And I remember you reached out during COVID or
That's
something.
right,
Yeah. And then here you are.
That's right. Yeah.
Here you are.
6 years later.
And the more I get to know you, the more intrigued I am, the more inspired I am. As you know, we have some similar values.
That's right.
Right, in terms of giving and the things that we want to do and being in service to other people. And so I want to get into that, and I also want to get into the real estate and all the amazing things that you've been doing. So let's go back to how you got started.
How I got started in real estate?
Well, no, let's talk about Freedom Tree,
Let's talk about
right? Because
Freedom
we have
Tree,
a lot
yeah.
of things to talk
That's
about,
right,
right?
that's right, yeah.
So let's go.
So let's start with Freedom Tree.
Because I think it's interesting because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Freedom Tree came before the real estate.
It did. There was sort of simultaneous. Obviously, I've carried a heart for real estate for a long time, but I've also carried a heart for Freedom Tree for a very long time.
Okay, so
So
let's start there.
So
First of all, what is Freedom Tree, and why are you so passionate about it, and how did you get started with that?
So Freedom Tree is a nonprofit that I started, and the goal of the organization is to reduce the rates of maternal and infant mortality in West Africa. The long story of how I got started, it's funny, we just moved and I was going through all of my stuff. My mom had handed me all these things, from the house, and she'd kept a letter that I had written as a school project from when I was 14 years old. And I was reading this letter, and the letter was to a newspaper editor back in England, because that's where I grew up. And I was critiquing his article in the newspaper because he'd written about the plight of kids in Bangladesh. And I was saying, you need to do something about this. These are kids
Don't just
younger
write
than
about
me.
it.
Exactly. Don't just write about it. These are kids my age and younger. They should not be working in sweatshops making clothes for us in the Western world. And it was interesting because I forgot all about it, and I read it and I thought, wow. So, I had obviously a heart for justice and passion from a young age, from very early on. And that's also why I'm very passionate about working with young people, because I don't think that we should diminish what they carry in their hearts and the potential that they have to change things and to change the world. So, I've carried that for a long time, and I finally got the opportunity. I put up my hand one day, and there was a mission trip going from my church to Sierra Leone, and back then it was 1 year after the Civil War, so it wasn't the safest of places to go. But I put up my hand and I said, "Hey, I'm."
And how long ago was that?
That was 2005.
Wow.
So that was almost 20 years ago. So it'll be 20 years next year.
Wow.
Yeah, the first time I went. And I was just graduated university. So no money, and didn't know how I was going to come up with the funds actually to go on this trip. But I was just really passionate about seeing a difference made, and not much details back then. This was even, early days of Facebook. So pre-Facebook, anything on the internet. So whatever you could find about Sierra Leone, you had to go to the library and look up and see, or movies and that sort of thing. And I just went. I went on this trip for 2 weeks, and what I saw shocked me. I saw women crying desperately because they hadn't seen a doctor for their children in a long time. I saw kids who were just running around, not going to school. because there were no schools, because they were all being bombed during the war, and a lot of helplessness and really terrible situations. And I saw that they could be fixed. It wasn't the end of the world. They could be fixed. But Sierra Leone needed some help because it was just right after the war. And this is a lesser known country, not a lot of resources, not a lot of clout in the international scale. And so I came back to Calgary, Alberta at the time. And I said, people were asking me, how was your trip? What happened? How did it go? And I said, somebody needs to do something. And I kept saying that because like most people, I carried the expectation that somebody out there is going to go solve all these issues that we see around us, whether it's homelessness or what have you. So, I expected that. And it took me about 2 years to realize, maybe that somebody is me because nobody else was stepping up to do it. I got another opportunity to go and I went again and then again and then again. And it just sort of grew from there. And then people started coming with me. And then we started doing projects. And, after 10 years of doing that, then I thought, maybe I should start a nonprofit and run all this money through so it can be transparent and, all of that. And that's how the nonprofit. So I never intended to start a nonprofit ever. Yeah. It just started because we were doing all
And you had
things.
another job before.
Oh, yeah. Full-time job.
What were you doing?
I was an accountant and an operations manager and eventually CEO of a construction company.
Nice.
So I was building this career alongside also building what Freedom Tree is. And I would take my vacation time and go to Sierra Leone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. And why did you name the organization Freedom Tree?
It's a great question. One of the things I saw in my heart, the vision that I had for this organization was that there's a big massive tree that I see that grows quite a lot in different places in Sierra Leone. It's called the cotton tree. It's huge. And when it rains, you can come under this tree and you will actually have shelter from the rain. When it's sunny, you can come under the tree and you can have shelter from the sun because it's so big and bushy. And I named Freedom Tree that because I felt like anyone who comes into contact with the organization needs to come into a place of freedom. And I believe that freedom is not the right to do whatever you want to do. It is the freedom to be who God has called you to be. Wow. And so you are free because you're doing exactly what you were made to be, what you were born to do. You're being Alfonso, you're being yourself. That's freedom. And freedom is that whatever you were made to, whatever that looks like, to do, you come into a place of freedom. What if it's a job or a career, what have you? So that, if it's a kid that's interacting with our organization that we sponsor, they become free because they're able to be who they were called to be because we were able to sponsor them. Or a mom that doesn't die giving birth, or a volunteer that comes on our trip and finds the freedom in, wow, I love doing this. And so I feel free. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's called the Freedom Tree.
Yeah. So the vision, the mission that we have in WealthGenius is to inspire the world to create financial freedom.
There you go.
Right. And we were looking for an icon because, we put, this messaging goes in all of our marketing material and everything. And so we were looking for an icon of what freedom means. So it's like we put freedom and you see what images pop up so we can find some sort of icon to match it. And it was like breaking chains, you're breaking a chain, and that's kind of like the biggest image. And then you saw the dove or whatever, freedom and all kinds of other stuff. And as this passion of creating financial freedom for people and making sure people have time freedom, which is most important, led me on this quest to educate young people, with anything that has to do with financial freedom, entrepreneurship, leadership, soft skills, sales, leadership, all the things that I think young people need, because I feel like they were left behind. And young people are being left behind here, not just in Canada, not just in Toronto, but globally, I think. And they don't have the skills. And so I started a foundation, as you know, and it's the Cuadra Youth Foundation. And the mandate is to support young people globally, right? So we have a mission to put 1 million young people through this program.
Amazing.
We wanted to go to developing nations, right? I come from Latin America, and I remember not having any access to any information when it comes to finances or anything like that. So I thought, it'd be great if we can go to some developing nations and inspire people. And I know that we can have more of an impact if we did that. And so we went to a few schools at Dominican Republic. We brought school supplies, and I'm talking to the teacher there, and I'm saying, I want to bring more education. She's like, that's great, but right now we're getting kicked out of our school, right? So the the owner had sold the lot or whatever, and they're gonna move somewhere else, and they're looking for a building, and can we help her build it? And I was like, absolutely. And I was like, well, what the hell do I know about, doing this, right? And you want to help. You're in a position where you can help, but you also, you don't have the infrastructure to be able to do it. And I left feeling sad, right? Because this is something that if I want to do this in these developing nations, if I want to create an impact, some of these young people don't even have schools that they can go to. And I remembered, boom. And I think you sent me a video.
That's right.
I think you sent me a video.
Yeah.
As I'm going through this process, you sent me a video where you were already there. And I remember, of course, we know each other for so long. You're a Wealth Genius member. And I'm like, this is perfect. It's like a match made in heaven because you have the infrastructure.
That's right.
And, we want to be in a position where we can support those initiatives. And you said, I'm building a school. And I'm like, let me help you. Let's do it. And so why a school? Why Sierra Leone? Why, why is this important to you?
Right. For me, I feel very, very fortunate to have grown up in the family that I grew up in because my parents really prioritized education, and education was the gateway to so many things. We take that for granted here in Canada because everybody goes to school. It's free, it's accessible. Like it really is up to you.
You take it for granted.
You take it for granted, yeah. People, But the rest of the world is not like that. Not everybody gets the opportunity to be able to go to school. Some people can't afford to. Some people don't have a school to go to, or some people don't have good quality education to have. And it provides a gateway and a great foundation because when you can get educated, you can make choices. You can be empowered. You can read and write. I can have a conversation with you that's intelligent. I know about history. I can go on to further education. I can become a doctor, a lawyer, an investor, an accountant, or I can negotiate with those types of people. And so education is the key to empowerment. It's also one of the biggest keys to lifting people out of poverty and healthcare. So the higher educated a woman is, the less likely she is to die giving birth. For each level of education that she completes, that chance of her dying goes down by 10%. So if you can get her to university, the chances of her dying is almost zero. And so that's very, very important. And the reason is she becomes more empowered to make better choices for herself, for her children, for her family, and same with men, actually, because the more empowered they are, the better choices that they make. So education is so important. And, the old thing that we hear all the time, teach a man to, give a man a fish, you feed him for a day, but teach him to fish. Giving somebody education is like teaching them to fish.
Yes.
And we have, Freedom Tree has been in operation now for over 10 years. And so I've had the opportunity to see children that we've invested in who have now graduated, are working, have a job or have started a business, and then they're able to take care of themselves, their kids, and their families. And like, wow, like when I saw you were, starving and barely had anything to eat, and now you're taking care of 4 or 5 other people because you were empowered to be able to do that. And so it becomes a lifeline to help people. Because, the thing about poverty is one of the bad things about poverty is how it makes people feel. It makes them feel less than. It makes you feel
powerless.
Like you're a beggar. Powerless, yeah. Makes you feel like you're a beggar. You just take what you can get. But education is the opposite of that. And so handing out money to people is not the answer.
Yes, I agree.
But giving them a means to get out of where they're from is, the key. And there's so many stories, like you and I both know, there's so many stories of great men and women who came from nothing, but because of education became everything.
Yeah.
Nelson Mandela, Mahatma Gandhi, people who have come from obscure backgrounds, but because they got into the right school, the right education, or the right system, were able to get themselves out of poverty. So that's why we do it. And Sierra Leone in particular, 67% of their schools were destroyed during the war.
Yeah. And let's clarify, you're not from there. You're Nigerian. Yeah, like descent. Were you born there? I was
born in Montreal.
Born in Montreal.
Parents,
yeah.
But Nigerians go everywhere.
Yeah.
Like
Salvadorians. Like Salvadorians.
Yeah, you'll find them everywhere. You'll find them in Iceland. You'll find them in Russia, everywhere. So I was born in Montreal.
There's 7 million Salvadorians in El Salvador, there's 10 million outside of El Salvador. So I get it. I get it.
Places.
Yes, I get it. So what I love is being in this opportunity to be able to support this cause. I have influence, and I want to use that influence to support this very cause. I want to have everything I have is going to be pointing here.
It's amazing.
So we're going.
That's right.
We're going. Actually, timestamp this
2 weeks from now.
Yeah, 2 weeks from now. We're in July, headed into July, and I'm excited. I got my shots.
Awesome.
I got all my shots,
hurt?
my whatever pills and all that.
Malaria
things.
pills,
Helene was taking care of everything.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on, but they just went pop, 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 pop. I'm like, whoa.
The yellow fever is like, that one can be a little
Yeah.
owie, and the tetanus. Yeah.
So in the show notes, people can have an opportunity to donate.
Yes.
Right. And when they donate, let's be a little bit transparent, and let's share what, because we'll put the link to go to exactly that school, Project Blama school, and how are we doing this?
Yeah. So every penny that you donate, so we have complete transparency. Every all the money that comes into Freedom Tree, 10% goes to admin. Then that's just to cover our administrative expenses.
Yeah.
And then the 90% goes to the project or wherever it's designated to. And so in this case for the school, so then 90% of that would just go straight down to actually building the school and putting it together. And we have a budget. When you talk about infrastructure, this is something that I've done for over a decade.
Yes.
And so monitoring, how this is being built, who's doing the building, making sure that we're going there every week to check on stuff. We buy the materials ourselves, and then creating accountability systems for the community and the people around the community to make sure that not just that the school is built well, but that once it's built, it's handed over to the right people. The government is going to be involved in this because they are actually going to be paying the teachers once the school is built, and they are going to be funding the school feeding program. So there's a feeding program for the kids in there. It's important that all of that work, Freedom Tree, we do all of that work beforehand. So you're not just like, oh, it's a good idea, let's go build a school, and you start building something. But you want to make sure that if, God forbid something happens, we have to pull out of the country, that all these things are not going to fall down, these systems and structures, because it's not dependent on us. It's not about us in the end. It's about educating these kids to perpetuity. And this is the third school that we would have built in the country. I'll hope when you come, and maybe I'll show you.
I can't wait. I can't wait. And we're going to be setting up a session for them to, talk about entrepreneurship and all the skills and all the stuff that, really, really, really resonates with me. And I'm excited because we're not just going there to teach a few things. We're going to leave something behind. And people can have an opportunity to participate in that. The link is in this video or wherever you're watching this podcast, and people will have the opportunity to donate directly. Can we talk about the different donation levels?
Yes, yeah. So we have a platinum sponsor that's $20,000 and up, and so if you give $20,000, you will have a classroom named after you. Or whatever name that you want to give it, as well as another area of the school. So maybe the teachers' quarters or the feeding station or the playground. So you'll have two areas. And then for a gold sponsor, so that's $10,000 and up, you'll have a classroom named after you. And of course, an invite to the opening ceremony as well, and a plaque with your name on it in the school. And then we have our silver. So that's $5,000 for donations, and you'll have a plaque with your name on it. You'll get invited to the virtual. So we can probably create something virtual for the opening ceremony and have a video recording, personalized thank you for you. And then we have our bronze. So the bronze is $2,500. If you donate $2,500, you will also get your name on a plaque in the school. So there's lots of different.
And right now, these young people are going to school underneath a tree. Right.
And it's not one of those big cotton trees. So when it rains, they all go inside.
Yeah.
And so
this donation is going directly to this project.
That's right.
If they follow the link, it's going to go directly to this project. And this is a building that's going to be there for years and years and years and years. It's going to educate hundreds and even thousands of young people that are going to go through this education, through this school.
300 every year.
Yeah. I love it. I love it so much.
Yeah.
I love it so much. Now, shifting gears a little bit, because I know that you are in a position where we're serving, right? Like you said, 10% for admin, but that, just keep the light on, keeps the light on. So at some point you had to pivot and figure out what you're going to do with yourself, So real estate is what you chose.
That's right.
So give me a little glimpse of what you've done in real estate.
Yeah. So, like most people, I started off my real estate investing by buying my own home, buying a condo. And for years, I know I bought another condo, but you get stuck pretty quickly because, even though you have the heart and the passion for it, like, I don't know how to do this, and you're trying to figure out what most people do is you end up buying more and more residential one at a time, but you can max out pretty quickly with that. And so I came to a point where, honestly, I got it into my head. I said, I need a mentor. I just need somebody who's done this before. And that's where I met you and I pursued you for about 2 years. I was like, hey, Alfonso, will you mentor me? And you were like, well, yeah. And this is before you started WealthGenius. Because you were like, well, and there was different reasons why you couldn't at that time. And then I called you again, I think at one point during COVID, and I said, hey, Alfonso, so what about that mentorship thing? I'm still looking for a mentor. It's been 2 years and I haven't gotten started. And he said, I just started this thing called WealthGenius. Do you want to join? And I was like, okay. And I remember clearly I was on maternity leave at the time because I think I was breastfeeding my son when I was talking to you because we had a video call.
Yes.
And so I joined WealthGenius, and the rest is history. And what I've learned through that has been invaluable because it's being the gateway to sort of getting to the commercial, getting into, playing with the big boys, so to speak. And so that's been really fun.
Yeah. And so you're taking down bigger projects.
That's right. Yeah.
And I love that. There's expansion on all categories of your life.
That's right. Yeah.
So congratulations on everything.
Thank you.
And thank you for stopping by. All the information people are going to need is going to be in the show notes.
Yes.
But I want to know, what's a quote that you live by?
A quote that I live by. See you at the top.
I love it. See you at the top. One. Guys, you heard it here. Thank you, Tara. Thank you for coming by. Yeah. And Alfonso loves you. And we'll see you all at the top.
That's right. Thank you.
Right.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening to the WealthGenius Podcast. Presented in part by Expand Investor Conference, December 13th to 15th at Weston Harbor Castle, Toronto. Get your tickets now at wealthgenius.ai/expand. If you have a question or comment about something you heard today, reach out to the Godfather via social media or email him anytime. All that information is in the show notes. And of course, don't forget to subscribe so you never miss an episode of the WealthGenius Podcast. The WealthGenius Podcast. Until next time, see you at the top.